All right, everyone. Let's dive into the sometimes confusing world of credit reports.
Mm.
And we're going to focus specifically on how to deal with errors on your Equifax report.
Yeah, these reports have a huge impact on our lives.
They really do.
Everything from, loans approvals to interest rates,
Mm.
even job offers can depend on what's on those reports.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how much power they have. And, one of the things that I found really interesting going through all these articles and guides is that disputing an error, it's almost like a courtroom drama. You're like the lawyer, building your case.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Because you really have to present your evidence to Equifax like it's the judge and jury.
Yeah, so let's break this whole process down. So the step one is checking your report, and I'm sure a lot of you know this already, but you can get a free copy every year from annualcreditreport.com. But here's the thing, don't just look at your score.
Right.
You really got to dig into the details.
Yeah, you got to scrutinize everything. Account balances, payment histories, even your personal information. You'd be surprised how often errors can sneak in there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. In fact, some of the sources we looked at mentioned some pretty crazy examples, like accounts people never even opened. Or on-time payments that were marked as late.
Yeah, it's like you have this evil financial twin out there messing with your credit history.
Right, exactly. So that's why this deep dive is so important.
Yeah.
We're giving you the knowledge you need to fight back against these errors. So let's say you've looked through your report and you find a mistake.
Okay.
What's next?
Well, this is where that courtroom analogy really comes into play. You need to gather your evidence.
Ooh.
Think bank statements, payment confirmations, copies of your ID, anything that can prove Equifax is wrong.
Okay, so you're saying it's not enough to just say, hey, this is wrong.
Right. It's not enough to just point it out.
You need to have the proof.
Yeah, you need to have the receipts.
Yeah.
You're building a case.
So Equifax is like the judge, and they're looking for hard evidence.
Exactly. The stronger your case, the better your chances of winning.
So you've got all your evidence together now. How do you actually file the dispute?
Well, there are three main ways you can do it: online, by mail, or over the phone.
All right, let's break those down because I'm sure everyone's wondering which is the best way.
Sure. So online is definitely the fastest and easiest option.
Okay, makes sense.
But if you're someone who likes to have a paper trail, then you should send a certified letter with return receipt requested.
I always like having a paper trail. What about the phone option?
Yeah, calling can be convenient. But you never know who you're going to get on the other end of the line.
True. That's always a risk with customer service hotlines.
Yeah, exactly. But no matter which method you choose, the key is to document everything.
Good point.
Keep copies of your dispute letter, your evidence, any communication with Equifax. That way you have a record if you need to escalate things later on.
So you sent your dispute. What happens next?
Well, now you have to wait.
The waiting game.
Yeah.
How long?
Equifax has 30 days to investigate.
Yeah, they call it a reinvestigation. But I bet it's not as thorough as it sounds.
Well, you're right.
Oh.
Often they just go back to the original source.
Meaning?
The lender or the data provider who gave them the information in the first place.
So they're not really investigating. They're more like a messenger.
That's a good way to put it.
And that's where things can get tricky, right?
Right, because if the lender says the information is correct, then Equifax might deny your dispute even if you have evidence that says otherwise.
So it really makes that initial evidence gathering phase so important. You really need to be prepared.
Exactly. You need a rock-solid case.
Okay, so 30 days have passed now. What?
Equifax has to let you know what they found.
Okay.
They'll tell you if they've updated or removed the disputed information, and they'll send you a new credit report with any changes.
But what if they deny your dispute? What if you've done everything right? You've gathered all your evidence and they still say no?
Well, you're not necessarily stuck. You still have some options, especially if you're sure the information is wrong. There are a few ways you can escalate things to keep fighting for your credit accuracy.
Okay, this is where it gets interesting. Okay, so our dispute was denied. What do we do now?
Well, don't worry, you still have options. Think of it like round 2 in our courtroom battle.
Oh, wait.
One option is to redispute the error, but this time come back with even stronger evidence.
So like a rebuttal. You've had time to review the judge's decision, and now you're back with better argument.
Exactly. Maybe you missed a key piece of information the first time around. Or maybe there's a way to present your evidence more clearly.
Okay, so round 2 with Equifax is one option. What else can we do?
Well, sometimes it's best to go straight to the source.
You mean?
The creditor who reported the information to Equifax.
Oh, so bypass the middleman.
Exactly. Contact them directly, explain the situation, and present your evidence.
That sounds a lot faster.
It can be. You might find that the creditor is more willing to listen than Equifax's automated system.
Okay, so we've got redisputing and contacting the creditor directly. What's the third option?
This one is for when you've tried everything else and you think something is seriously wrong.
Okay.
You can file a complaint with the CFPB.
The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
That's right.
They're like the big guns, right?
They are. They have the power to investigate complaints and make sure companies are following the law.
So if you feel like you're up against a giant, the CFPB can help level the playing field.
Exactly.
Now I want to talk about something that can be a little scary. Fraud and identity theft.
Yeah, that's a big one.
What about fraud alerts and credit freezes? When should we use those?
Those are really important tools if you think you might be a victim of identity theft, or even if you just want to add an extra layer of security.
Okay.
A fraud alert is like a red flag on your credit report. It tells lenders to be extra careful before giving you credit.
Like an extra security checkpoint.
Exactly. And a credit freeze is even more restrictive. It basically prevents anyone from opening new accounts in your name without your permission.
Wow, that's serious.
It is, but it can really protect you if someone is trying to steal your identity.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about reacting to problems. But what about being proactive? What can we do to protect our credit before something goes wrong?
That's a great question. Being proactive is key to good credit health.
So how do we do that?
First, pay attention to your financial habits.
Like
Paying your bills on time, keeping your credit card balances low, and don't open too many new accounts all at once.
those are the basics, but they're so important.
They are. They really are. Another thing you can do is set up account alerts.
Account alerts.
Yeah, a lot of banks and credit card companies offer this.
Oh.
You can get notifications about suspicious activity, missed payments, or changes to your account.
So it's like having someone watching over your credit for you.
That's a good way to put it.
That could be really helpful.
It is. It can help you catch problems early on.
You know, something you said earlier really got me thinking. You said Equifax is basically a messenger between us and the lender.
Right.
So how much power do lenders actually have?
They have a lot of power. Their data is what makes up our credit reports, and Equifax usually relies on them when they're investigating disputes.
So that means it's really important to make sure the information lenders are reporting is correct.
Absolutely. You should check your statements carefully and contact the lender if you see any mistakes.
So it's a two-pronged approach. Monitor your credit reports and talk to your lenders.
Exactly. Remember, you have a right to accurate credit reporting. You need to be informed, engaged, and assertive to make sure your credit report tells the right story.
So we've covered a lot today, from disputing errors to being proactive. But before we go, I have one last thought. We've talked about checking our reports and fighting those errors. But is there anything else we can do to be even more proactive? Like, can we do something besides just waiting for problems to pop up?
You absolutely can. One thing that really stood out in my research was this idea of a personal credit blueprint.
A blueprint.
Yeah. Think of it as a proactive plan for your credit. It outlines your goals, your current situation, and the steps you'll take to achieve those goals.
So like a roadmap for my credit.
Exactly. And one really important part of this blueprint is knowing your target audience.
Target audience. You mean like who I want to impress with my credit score?
Well, sort of. Different lenders have different standards.
Right.
Some are stricter than others. So if you know which lenders you're likely to use in the future, like for a mortgage or a car loan, you can adjust your credit building strategies to meet their requirements.
That's really smart. Like knowing the dress code for a party so you don't show up underdressed.
Exactly. It's about being strategic with your credit. And here's another proactive tip. Build relationships with your lenders.
Relationships with lenders, I always thought of them as these big faceless corporations.
A lot of people do, but having a good relationship with your lenders can really help.
How so?
If you're communicating with them regularly and keeping them updated about your finances, they're more likely to work with you if you run into any problems.
So it's about making it more personal.
Right, exactly. Especially if you've had some credit issues in the past. Having a lender who knows you and trusts you can make a big difference.
Like having a good reference.
That's a good way to put it.
This has been so informative.
I'm glad to hear it.
One of the biggest takeaways for me is that knowledge is power. The more we understand about credit, the better we can manage our finances.
That's so true.
So we've covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about disputing errors, building relationships with lenders, and being proactive. Hopefully this deep dive has given you the tools and knowledge you need to take control of your credit.
I hope so too.
Remember, it's your credit story. Make sure it's accurate and make sure it reflects your financial goals.
Great advice.
Thanks for joining us. Until next time, stay informed and stay in control of your credit.
If this podcast helped you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps us keep making these videos. Thanks for watching.